and welcome once again to What's New at IBM. I am, as always, your host, PJ Haggerty, and I'm here with our first ever return guest, Kate Soule, to talk about the things she promised last time, Granite 3.2. So, Kate, tell us all about what's new with Granite 3.2.
Hey VJ, we're really excited about Granite 3.2. It was just released at the end of February and it features a number of big updates to the Granite model family. First, on the language models, we've released new experimental reasoning features. So this is basically a toggle that you can turn on and off in order to have Granite produce chain of thought reasoning before responding with a final answer. So it's still early. There's a lot that we want to explore with reasoning, but it's a first look at what Granite and reasoning look like together, and we're really excited to keep building on it moving forward. The other big updates include we now have a vision model. So also really exciting, Granite is now multimodal and can handle text and image inputs to then produce text outputs. So things like document understanding, image understanding, kind of these vision understanding tasks. And the model was specialized to really perform well on document understanding, chart QA, things like multimodal RAG, where you're analyzing large amounts of documents and you don't want to just extract the text. You want to use figures, you want to take information from the entire document and use it in the decision making. And then the last big update is we released updates to our time series models. So these are really exciting Granite time series. They're small, 1 to 2 million parameters, but they put a really big punch in performance. They are top of the leaderboards just recently with the Salesforce's GIF time series leaderboard. And with the new versions of these models, they now offer daily forecast resolutions. So really excited to continue to kind of push the boundaries. There's some other work too that we released. We've got a new experimental embedding model called Granite 30 million sparse. We've got some new software that came out, just some Python libraries to help you better use Granite. It's called Granite IO, and it allows for you to better harness the chat template and take advantage of things like thinking. A lot of other small updates to coincide, but those are kind of the big things I'm most excited about.
Yeah, it's funny you say, like, this is a ton of stuff. This is a huge amount of like, you've really stretched the Granite model out. And we often look at things from an enterprise perspective. Like, what do enterprises look for in an LLM like Granite? Like, why do they need to go multimodal? I know a lot of it started kind of in that let's documentize thing. Let's bring documents in and understand them better, and we need to understand those graphs and images. But there seems to be so much more than that, right?
Yeah, a couple of things. So, why we're building on Granite and what's Granite's broader story. We are trying to focus on small, cost-effective models. These models aren't going to be able to run every single task in your workflow, but we think that for, the 80-20 rule, 80% of the tasks that you're working on either already can be or soon will be able to be performed by small language models. And so that's why we're really focusing with the Granite 3 model series on models that are 8 billion parameters or smaller. They can run faster, they're cheaper to host, they're easier to customize. It's just life is much easier when the model is quote unquote small, still 8 billion parameters. And so being able to continue to build upon that theme of efficiency with things like reasoning that can be turned on and off, because reasoning costs more. You have to produce more tokens. You have to wait longer. So being able to toggle that on and off is really important because you might not always need chain of thought reasoning for every single task. I'll give you an example. If you ask, DeepSeek reasoning models, what is 2 plus 2, you'll get about 5 paragraphs of response of thoughts before it answers 4. And, that's obviously overkill. So we want to focus on kind of this pragmatic approach. How do we make AI efficient, cost effective, so that it can actually be implemented in the real world?
Right, and that kind of adds to the sustainability factor as well, right? Like, you don't need as many nodes, you don't need as much
Power
compute time.
plants,
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, 100%. A number of reasons why we're focusing on small. And so with vision, that model is only 2 billion parameters in size.
Wow.
Actually quite dense and compact. And by focusing on things like document understanding, chart understanding, we see a lot of impact for different multimodal workflows. But ultimately, we're still figuring out, right, where the big value drivers and propositions are for multimodal and image understanding. So there's a lot more that we want to explore. But we think that chart Q&A, document Q&A, multimodal RAG is where we're again, that's going to be like that 80-20 rule. 80% of the use cases we think are going to be able to really be kind of powerfully impacted by these types of models. And so we decided to start there.
Right. Totally makes sense. Do you think, because it sounds like to me, in some ways, we're moving towards, and not just like IBM, but like I think the AI world is moving towards a more customizable situation. Like, okay, so you'll have certain things that can be solved by agents, certain things that can be solved by vision models and reasoning, certain things can be solved by still going to the old form large language model. Do you think that customization is kind of the bleeding edge of where AI is? Like we need to figure out how to have smaller, more compact custom solutions in order to solve the problems that are really facing people, because the general solutions are great, but they're too cantankerous, they're too bulky. They don't really solve every problem. So it's better to have the small bits.
Yeah, look, I think big models, one of the reasons why they're so helpful is we can be really lazy when building with them. We can kind of just,
Okay.
you know, randomly, word vomit prompts and, describe things very loosely and they'll work really well. But at a cost, right? It takes a lot. And so being able to customize small models so that they are more designed for the exact tasks you care about, maybe that takes some extra upfront cost, but ultimately leads to far more efficient deployments. And we're seeing more and more capabilities can be brought into the small model world that last year required a big model. And we think that trend is only going to continue. And customization is a huge part of that story. And RAG, if you think about it, is customization. You're
Right. Yeah.
injecting some of your own data into the prompt in order to improve the model's decision-making process. And so I very much see customization as a spectrum, everything from, RAG and bringing data directly into your prompts to encoding it into the weights itself, to things that are in between where you maybe train an adapter to sit on top of the model. And I think we're only going to see those technologies get more efficient and more powerful, allowing us to continue to unlock more and more capabilities on the smaller, large language model side.
Awesome. This all sounds amazing. And now I have to ask you the big, most loaded question of the show, and I know you're ready for it. What can we expect from upcoming releases of Granite?
So I just spent a bunch of time talking about small, large language models, but we are going to get a little bit bigger in size.
Okay.
We're still focused on efficiency. We're focused on mixture of experts as an architecture for the next phase of Granite, which is a far more efficient architecture both to train and to run at inference time. So we're looking again, what is pragmatic AI look like? How can we build pragmatic large language models that start to carve out some of those larger model use cases that aren't yet able to be handled in 8 billion parameters or fewer, while still taking a really pragmatic, efficient approach. Still trying to keep things, for example, to a single GPU. So I would expect more to come. Some bigger sizes are definitely coming next. And more innovations on the model architecture in order to make sure that when we deliver those bigger sizes, we do so efficiently and cost effectively.
Fantastic. Kate, I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to what we've got. I know our team's been playing around a lot with what just came out with 3.2, and we're super excited about it. Can't wait for 3.3, 3.3. Is that the next?
3.3 is going to come next, so that'll be our last release before Think.
Awesome. Everybody keep an eye out for that. And thank you again for being on the show. And thanks to everybody for listening to What's New.
Thanks so much.